Hello and welcome to another Smaulgld live stream. Tonight is Tuesday, the 29th of January 2019. Tonight's topic will be a discussion towards the end. Is Bitcoin a store of value? There's a lot of stories out today on that topic. One from Bloomberg, one from the World Gold Council. So we also got a full show for you tonight. We're going to go through some gold and silver developments. Excuse me. Some crypto developments, the prices, also the State of the Union, the State of the Wall negotiations, and some presidential politicking for 2020. And then we're going to hit our Is Bitcoin a Store of Value topic. So welcome, Smaulgld game changers and mug stackers. Before we get started looking at the prices of the gold and silver and the cryptos, sort of alert you, we did a interview today with James Henry Anderson of Silver Doctors. Non-paid interview, he is a Smaulgld subscriber, and he is also a Smaulgld mug holder. So he was entitled to come on to the show, and he gave his views on the gold and silver market. Very interesting interview. Also, if you're interested, what he also talked about was how he got involved, not just with, many of you are involved with gold and silver, stacking, collecting, and so on, but he actually works in the industry. So there's an interesting interview there with James Henry Anderson, and there he is right there, looking very studious indeed, as he always does. We've shared many conversations over the years, comparing notes on gold and silver. Thought it was time to have him on the channel, and you won't be disappointed in the interview that I had. And here is his Smaulgld mug, fresh out of the box a couple of months ago. So James Henry Anderson is a Smaulgld mug stacker. He even put a pitch in towards the end of the video. So stay for the end, and he will pitch the Smaulgld mugs for you. All right, let's move on now to the gold and silver prices. Very important. Well, we're starting to see some movement in the gold and silver prices. Yes, indeed we are. So, and not only are we seeing movement, we're seeing that type of movement where gold and silver are moving together. So, for example, the gold price today, let's take a look. Exactly what you want to see in a bull market. You want to see both of them rising. But in the initial part of the bull market, you want to see the gold price get ahead of itself. You want to see the gold price really start moving into a bull market. I don't think we're quite there yet. We're still testing now, trying to get back to last February's highs. I think we were about 1340, 1350. But now the price of gold is solidly above 1300 and went up another $8 or $9 today. Shot out, went up out of the gate and stayed there and finished close to the high around $1,311, up about 0.67%. So it went up a little bit, but it went up from a decent point where you're over 1,300. Now, silver, which has really been beaten down, went up today a little bit less than gold, which is fine. You can see it didn't quite hold on to its gains for the day. Not uncommon, and it's still below that $16 rate price, but it did close at around $15.82. It was up a dime or 0.63%. And what did that do for the unsustainable gold-silver ratio? Well, the gold-silver ratio crept a little bit higher today. At one point, gold was doing a lot better than silver. Silver crept up a bit, but you can see close to 83 to 1. Now, here's some interesting news. There's a couple of pieces of interesting news here about gold and silver. When we talk about is Bitcoin a store of value, I'm going to mention how it seems the mainstream media is pushing gold, not just the World Gold Council, Bloomberg. It actually just reminded me there was a, I'm going to find that while I'm showing you this. There was also a Goldman Sachs reference today about gold as well. They're very favorable on gold. But look at this story that you have up here. And look at the comments I've made about it. It looks like Bloomberg has gone full silver pumper with this article. Go to the bottom. It says silver shortage promises to boost price in 2019. Now, you never hear the mainstream media say things like set to skyrocket or promises to go higher. They're usually pretty negative about why would you want it, barbarous relic, things like that. But you just never see full-on promotion in the mainstream media about gold or silver. There's always some type of caveat about why gold and silver are not going to go higher, why they're a bad investment, why they don't pay dividends, and so on. But here we see Bloomberg saying that there is a silver shortage. And if you read the article, I'll leave it in the show notes, they're talking about how there may be a shortage due to mining cutbacks. Now, of course, we've talked about how mining cutbacks don't have an immediate impact on the price because most of the gold and silver doesn't come from, the demand doesn't come from current year supply. Now, there is some truth. If you don't keep adding supply into the pipeline, well, then you're going to have a problem, that's for sure. But here they're saying that they're making it sound like it's going to have an immediate impact. Not sure that that's the case, but that's what they're saying, and they're saying it is, in a sense, set to skyrocket. In fact, they even gave a price target. Now, I don't think it's set to skyrocket, the price they're giving. They mentioned the 9% surge in December, but remember, that's off of a multi-year low, went back under $14 at one point. But again, for the fact that Bloomberg would put out an article like this, very interesting, but they said that right now they think the price could spike as high as $17.50. Now, if the price spikes to $17.50, that really would just be a $2 move, and a $2 move on a $15.80 price, that's another 12%. I'm actually thinking if gold continues and gets above $1,400, I said at the beginning of the year that silver would probably get to $20 an ounce. But it's interesting to see Bloomberg actually projecting, promising, and using the term silver shortage. It's not really a shortage. There may be a decline in production. But again, it's interesting to see positive news from Bloomberg. And we're going to see later in the show some positive news on gold. Now, here's that Goldman Sachs story that I mentioned today. It was in Zero Hedge. Goldman's Curie, long gold is favorite commodity play right now. And that's, again, you generally don't see these types of recommendations or projections that gold or silver are going to go higher in a given year. Sometimes when we've seen the Goldman analysts put out buys or sells on gold or silver, it's usually an indicator to go the other way. But interesting, again, Goldman's Curie, long gold is a favorite commodity play right now. Now, retail demand on gold and silver. I think we might be done. We got another, what is it? Today is January 29th. So if it's the 29th, we've got another, we've got till Thursday for the U.S. Mint. Now, here are American Silver Eagle sales. American Silver Eagle sales and American Gold Eagle sales are pretty much unimportant to the overall scheme of gold demand. The Gold Eagle demand is immaterial to overall gold demand. The Silver Eagle demand in 2015, when it hit a record 47 million ounces, that became like 6-7% of overall demand. That was significant enough because when you take into account American Silver Eagle demand that year, along with Canadian Maple Leaf and other sovereign mints and privately minted rounds, investment silver started to approach 22-23%. In the last few years, it's dropped down into the single digits, including the American Silver Eagles. But you're seeing now that 2018, well, that's actually 2019, is not starting off that well. It's at 4.017 million, which is, it's okay, but it's not near some of the other years. It's better than last year when it was about 3 million. I made a mistake on the chart here. I put in 2019's number on 2018, left out 2018 number, which is lower than 4.07. Okay, now same with gold. Now, if you look at the gold chart here, the retail demand for the 1 ounce American Gold Eagle coin was so far is 44,000. Again, that's better than last year's 36,000, but it's not really. It's about the lowest it's been other than 2018. You'd have to go back to 2008. So in both the case of silver and gold eagles, so far, January is looking better than last year, than 2018, but not really at the levels that we've seen the years before. Now remember, if you go back to 2017, 16, 15, 14, 13, those are very robust years, especially 2013 to 15. They were very big years. And 2016 was a very big gold year. We'll cover those at the end of the month. We'll look at the full month totals on Friday. So join us on Friday and we'll go through the U.S. Mint numbers. Now, let's take a look at the crypto prices. We've got a number of crypto stories to look at as well. But the crypto prices right now down a little bit. Bitcoin down 1.38%, down to $3,300 and $3,390. Bcash down to 108, down 2.85%. Ethereum getting close to 100, down 103 to $103, down 2%, and Litecoin at $30.53, down less than 2%. Now, there's some things going on in the crypto space, and I think it's the same thing with cryptocurrencies as it is with gold and silver. Sometimes it's more important to look at what's going on in the market than just what the price is. The price generally reflects sometimes what's going on in the market, sometimes it doesn't. In fact, with gold and silver, it's probably easier to project where the prices are going to go because they've been established. We know where the price, quote, discovery comes from or doesn't come from. In the COMEX market, we know that even when you have something that comes out of the blue and should be a shock to the system to drive gold and silver higher, there's limits on the way COMEX allows the prices to rise or fall. And for example, today I would have thought it looks like in Brexit that they're not going to come up with a deal. They want to renegotiate a deal, and the European Union saying, no, you can't renegotiate a deal. Well, that would mean you're going to have Brexit, and Brexit was supposed to be a hard Brexit. I mean, that was supposed to be the biggest disaster, and that's what set gold and silver spiraling higher in the summer of 2016. Now, maybe there's a delayed reaction there, or maybe people realize that maybe Brexit isn't that big of a deal. But the point is that gold and silver, you can they're not going to rise. Gold has only risen. They don't rise 50-80% in a given year, other than silver might every 30 years. But cryptocurrencies can rise, as we've seen, 10-12% in a day. It's not uncommon for them to do that. But there's things going on in the crypto market which are interesting, and they probably don't reflect where the price is. So, for example, what do we got here? First of all, Bitcoin ATMs keep opening up at a very rapid rate. 2,561 in the United States and nearly 4,300 overall in the world, and that's nearly double from last year. Also, Bitcoin transactions are at the highest level in 12 months. So there's a lot of activity on the blockchain, again, not reflecting what's going on. The hash rate is also up as well, and again, the price is down. Also, what else is going on? Well, you've got this buy Bitcoins at ATMs, not Bitcoin ATMs, but there's a company that's been given a license now, a New York Bitcoin license or whatever it's called. It's not I don't remember the name of it, but it's some type of license. I think it's a bit license that allows them to sell, but this one allows the purchaser to buy them at traditional ATMs. I think that's an important development as well. Also, Fidelity announced in Bloomberg today, and it also copied in Cointelegraph. Fidelity, with I think a $2.9 trillion under management, is set to launch its Bitcoin custody service. And there they'll store the Bitcoin for the customers. They say one of the reasons that institutional investors have not jumped into the crypto space, one reason is they don't have a storage system that they feel comfortable with, and they think Fidelity launching this, and they wouldn't be launching it unless they thought there was demand. They wouldn't spend the time, effort, and money to building and hope they come. They clearly have been working with customers, and this will be open to institutional customers only, and they expect later in the year they're going to offer retail cryptocurrency offerings. So that they're saying is going to launch in March. Also, another interesting development, as we mentioned the other night, Samsung is going to be launching its new Galaxy S10. They're saying they think it's going to come preloaded with crypto wallets, and they think that that would help people explore the crypto space, putting the cryptocurrencies in their wallets on their phone. Now, another one, and we've talked about this has come up a lot, which is the censorship-free nature of the cryptocurrencies. Now remember, keep the points I'm making in mind. None of this has anything to do with store of value. One of the things I see, I can just see people biting their lips when they hear anything positive said about cryptocurrencies, because they're insisting that they're not gold or silver, and they're not. And I have a very, I think, distinct opinion on both gold and silver and cryptocurrencies. I don't even think they're remotely alike. I think that one is a superior payment system, i.e. the cryptocurrencies. I don't even know how that is even, you can even deny it. Oh, but what if the lights go out? Yeah, but what if they don't go out? It's a lot easier to transact with cryptocurrencies than it is with gold and silver. Gold and silver were very easy to transact with, the best way to transact in the pre-digital age. They were fungible, they were divisible, you could hold them in your hand, you could easily transact with them. Well, cryptocurrencies are even easier to transact, assuming there's no issues. Now, here's one that, the other thing about cryptocurrencies, the right kind, is the current digital payment system is run by central banks with a lot of oversight and a lot of large companies who have an agenda. And for example, they're now saying many payment systems, whether they are PayPal or MasterCard, Visa, or even some banks, they are trying to limit their services to people or to types of transaction that they don't deem to be socially acceptable. So one of the things I know that the credit cards are concerned about are they want to stop gun sales. And that's one of the problems. So this company here, gunbroker.com, which is the world's largest firearms auction site, is setting up a stable coin where people can put their money into the coin, have it held there, and then not have to worry about a credit card transaction being denied because they're making some type of a firearms transaction. It's the same with, and the other reason that these types of cryptocurrencies are in some respects superior to PayPal or MasterCard is the fees are much lower. So for example, as you know, when Smaulgld makes his pitch either to sell mugs or to troll for donations, I put this up where you can donate via Patreon, PayPal, Bitcoin, or Litecoin, or you can buy your mugs via PayPal or Bitcoin or Litecoin. Or if you become a Smaulgld Mug Club patron or a Smaulgld Smug Mug patron, you get 1 or 2 mugs. Now, the issues with Patreon and PayPal, they take a very hefty fee. Even if you send me $2, I'll get like $1.61. But if you donate via Bitcoin or Litecoin or you pay that way, the fees are de minimis. They're very low in the fees. So now, assuming I don't have a problem with the fees, but what if Patreon or PayPal has a problem with me and they think that I am misgendering, I am doing something that offends them, talking about firearms, whatever it is, and they say, well, we're going to boot you off the platform. Well, again, farewell to your fees if that would happen, but Bitcoin and Litecoin can't toss me off the platform. Does that make them store of value? Keep that in mind. No, but it does make them a superior payment system than the current digital fiat realm. It also, they're superior to sending gold or silver in the mail. That's risky. And how can you actually send $23.99 for a mug to Smaulgld via gold or silver? The best you might be able to do is send 1.5 ounces and hope that that's about the right price. Whereas you can actually calculate very easy. You don't have to do it yourself. Your phone will do it if you held up your phone's wallet to the Bitcoin or Litecoin Q code you see on the screen and get the exact amount. And that can be transmitted immediately without any censorship and with a far lower fee than if you were to send it via PayPal or Patreon. And again, that's assuming that PayPal or Patreon even allow you to do that, because there could come a day when I or you or somebody is not allowed to use those services. So what's going on with this gun company is they're introducing a stable coin so that they don't have that issue of getting us shut down. And one of the things they said in the press release, let me see if I can find it here. Yeah. They said, anyone who's purchased a firearm knows how painstakingly brutal it can be to deal with traditional credit card companies and other financial institutions, said Gunbroker's CEO. We can now virtually eliminate that problem and expose a whole new segment of gun and outdoor enthusiasts to the world of digital payments. So again, I think that, and this is not saying gold is better than Bitcoin or Bitcoin is better than gold. It's got nothing to do with it. In this particular circumstance, a cryptocurrency, a private cryptocurrency, serves a function that the credit cards obviously don't, because they're trying not to serve that function. They're trying to prevent you from using their card to buy the firearms. And it's certainly a superior mode of payment to go on an auction site and use that stable coin, or if they let you use a Bitcoin and transfer it into the stable coin, than trying to buy it with gold or silver. That should be obvious to people, but people refuse to see it because they're clinging to an asset and assigning characteristics to one and negating characteristics of the other. All right, let's move on and see what else we got in. I think that's it for the crypto space for today, but I may be wrong. I do a little show prep here to make sure we get everything down. Yes, one more thing here. Free payment processing from Alliant. Now, why would they do that? Well, first of all, the payment processors are in a bind. So are MasterCard and Visa. But only if cryptocurrencies take off. Cryptocurrencies don't take off. We had this long discussion about how, a couple of nights ago, we were talking about when there is an issue. It was the Netflix versus Blockbuster and cryptocurrencies versus MasterCard, Bitcoin versus MasterCard Visa. And we were mentioning that when there's a market where there are a lot of fees, and the fees appear to be unjustifiably high, that the market will somehow figure out a way to undermine those fees and change the business model. And that's exactly what happened with Netflix. People they learned how to avoid the late fee through Netflix, even if it meant having to wait, not being able to walk down to your store and pick up the physical CD, a DVD, or VHS, but they could wait for it to come in the mail. They were fine with that. It was actually preferable because they would never pay the late fee, provided they returned their digital media in the mail. Now, it's the same thing with, as I mentioned, when I get the PayPal or the Patreon, I lose a portion of that value. Now, what happens when you run a Bitcoin or Litecoin payment through a payment processor, the payment processor converts that and sends the recipient the actual fiat amount. So there's no issue with, oh, but it's volatile. No, that's what the payment processor gets paid to do, is to eliminate that volatility so that the merchant or Smaulgld gets the exact amount that was sent. At the time it was sent, you get the amount on the other end because the transaction happens pretty much instantaneously. Then after that, the price of Bitcoin or Litecoin can go up or down. And one of the reasons I was initially against Bitcoin or Litecoin as a payment method was I didn't need it and I didn't see how anyone else would need it. Back then, I wasn't concerned, nor was anyone else, that you wouldn't be allowed to use your MasterCard, or you couldn't send money to certain types of people, or you couldn't use your credit card to buy a firearm, or you couldn't send money to someone because they're on someone's bad list. But even putting that aside, I also didn't see the reason for it because you had other ways. I mean, you could send money via... If there is no censorship, it's actually okay for the person sending the money because they don't pay any fees. So you go into the merchant, you don't care that he has to pay 2, 3, 4% credit card fee when you buy stuff, when you buy your groceries. Use your credit card. It doesn't cost you anything unless you don't pay back the amount that that you spent, and then you start to pay interest on the principal of your outstanding balance. But if you just go into a store and you use the card, it's great because the price doesn't impact you. Yet the merchant probably tax on 3 or 4% to cover those costs. It's built into their entire cost structure. But from the consumer's point, there's no real reason to change. But from the merchant's part, there is. Those fees start to add up, and they start to be viewed as unjustified. Now, what's happening, many companies are starting to accept the cryptocurrencies. And when they do that, they can offer, and they do that not only to avoid the fee, but to avoid the chargebacks. And this is a point that Johnny Litecoin has been on the show, has mentioned that's very attractive to merchants. Now, coincidentally, or not coincidentally, but Align, I think, is his employer, and they're now providing this free crypto processing to some merchants. And which merchants are they providing it to? Well, it's American and Europeans, according to the story here, and I also looked at the press release, who also are going to sign up for their credit card processing. So it basically is an entree into these merchants who are going to otherwise accept credit cards for sure and use Align services to process the credit cards, but also if they want to try the crypto processing, and this is a good way of getting their foot into the door and offering them the ability, showing them the advantages of it, and this way. Now, if merchants do adopt this, and we mentioned how that could happen when they have the ATM machine in their store, people buy the cryptocurrencies in their store, and then they can spend them in the store with no fee. Now, all of a sudden, it becomes a use case just on fees, and as in the case of the gun company, the gun auction company, it also becomes a use case to get around this type of censorship. All right, I think that's it on the cryptocurrency. Just keep those points in mind when we move on to whether Bitcoin is a store of value. All right, what else do we got here? Okay, so now it looks like the State of the Union is going to happen. Government is open, at least for the next 2 or 3 weeks, and Nancy Pelosi wrote to Donald Trump late yesterday. When I wrote to you on the 23rd, I stated we should work together to find a mutually agreeable date when government is reopened to schedule this year's State of the Union. And she says, in our conversation today, we agreed on February 5th. So that State of the Union will take place a week from today. Therefore, I invite you to deliver the State of the Union address before a joint session of Congress on February 5th, 2019 in the House chamber. Thank you, Nancy Pelosi. Now, interesting developments here with the State of the Union. Look at this chart here. It looks like Nancy Pelosi has the lowest positive ratings. Well, she's got, it's interesting. Donald Trump has a 39% positive rating. Nancy only has a 28% rating positive, and their negatives are pretty close. Over half have a negative rating of Trump and 47% negative rating of Nancy Pelosi. But the delta between the two of them, negative 19 for Nancy, negative 12 for Donald Trump. So neither of them have the upper hand in the popularity contest. But I would rather have the stronger positives than the slightly lower negatives. That means you have more people on your side than just people being against you. Now, this just in, former Georgia gubernatorial candidate Stacey Abrams will give the Democratic response to the President Trump's State of the Union address. It's probably a better choice than Nancy Pelosi, but I'm not sure she's the best choice. I would think that I would want to put forward, I wouldn't put Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez there, but I'd want to put somebody there who's on the up and up, someone who's dynamic and who maybe just won an election. I don't know if I would put someone who lost an election in the spot, but we'll see how she does. A lot of the times it has to do with who the speaker is, not how they're doing, but I still think you want to put your rising stars. And again, they try to make rising stars sometimes out of people who lost. I mean, they're trying to do that with Beto O'Rourke. He might have been a good choice as well, but again, he lost, so I'm not sure that would have been the best choice. You'd want to pick somebody, I think, who recently won, but we'll see how it goes. And for the most part, people don't have the patience to sit around and watch even the entire State of the Union. By the time Trump is finished talking about the wall for 3 hours, I don't think many people are going to wait around for Stacey Abrams. But, of course, in the media the next day, they'll make a big deal about her speech, say how wonderful it was. But probably won't be watched very much live. Now, 2020, before we get to our topic of the evening, there was a very, I hope, and Bernie Sanders says that he's thinking about it, but if he will only run if he thinks he is the strongest candidate in the field, which actually makes sense. If he thinks somebody else has a better chance of winning, that means he'll probably lose to that person in the primary. But the funny thing is, and I'll leave this in the show notes for tomorrow, but I don't know why this is, it's hysterical, this video. When Bernie Sanders went on his honeymoon, he decided the Soviet Union was the best place to go. Why? Because it's communist, I suppose. Not necessarily for any love of the Russian culture. Or maybe he does. I don't know. But he's a big fan of a lot of the communist style or socialist style government. And he's sitting in looks like some type of den where there's maybe a table of about 15 people. They all got their shirts off. And there's a bunch of comrades there, and he's partying down in 1988 with his shirts off. They're singing, I don't know why, "This Land Is Your Land." Anyway, it's hysterical. I can't do it justice because I'd have to get drunk and start singing like Bernie Sanders, and I haven't practiced that yet. But he was there partying with the 1% in the Soviet Union. So he may or may not be involved in 2020, but I guarantee if he does run, you'll see that video quite often. Jeff Flake. He's decided not that he'd have much of a shot, but he's decided he's not going to run and help to primary Donald Trump in 2020. You may see Mitt Romney try that. I doubt it, though. But Flake says he's not going to run, and that was according to, he announced that, it looks like, on CBS News, and guess what he's going to be doing instead? Earning some cash. Doing what? Contributing to a new series we're launching called Common Ground. So it's going to be one of these reach across the aisle like he did with that senator when they decided to give it a week to do some FBI investigation into Justice Kavanaugh before his confirmation. So Flake, count him out. Kamala Harris, still in. Now, some disturbing things are arising, coming out of her past that people are going to focus on. Put aside, there's always going to be people looking up to the dirt about her and Willie Brown, and that's just typical. I mean, you're going to have dirty politics. But there's some things that are concerning progressives and others as well. There's some speeches here she's giving about, and I'll put these in the show notes. You can listen to them tomorrow. But there's one where she basically said that the biggest issue we have is kids got to get to school. And what she did as the district attorney is she threatened every parent in the state that if they didn't send their kid to school, they would be arrested. And then she gave an example of how it actually worked, where she sent in basically the people that deal with all the worst types of criminals, the real stern-faced people. They went into some homeless woman's, I don't know where they found her, and they read her the riot act and frightened her and told her, you know, your kid's got to get to school. And she seemed to be very pleased. She's like, yeah, that works. You know, you go in there and you intimidate homeless people. You get their kids in school. What's not to like? And she called it using the stick. So the progressives are not happy about this kind of heavy-handed approach towards getting her way. And I think that's going to be something that's going to harm her more than the Willie Brown stuff. There's going to be a lot of these clips. You're going to see them. And people are seeing them now, but only people that are really paying attention to politics. You'll see somebody will put these into campaign ads that are running against her, trying to be more progressive than her. It's one thing to say you're progressive, then there's another thing to say you want to lock everyone up, and then you say, oops, that's not very progressive. And again, she's not going to win over the law and order people with that kind of talk because they already view her as progressive. Now, jumping Joe Biden. Some call him Creepy Joe. He says he's closer to making a 2020 decision. Yeah, he would be a party favorite, I would imagine, and it'd be interesting. They would have a field day with the comparison between this old guy and Kamala Harris, but there's a lot of others that might run as well. But what's really riling up Democrats is not the prospect of Bernie Sanders running, Not even the prospect that Hillary Clinton said she might get in, or Kamala Harris, or Cory Booker, or Julian Castro. And there's so many people that are in that have their own small buzz, but what people are really, really concerned about is this guy, Schultz. And today, there were so many news outlets, prominent Democrats, Lawrence Tribe, Washington Post. This is foolishness. This guy shouldn't be running. How dare he? Is he nuts? He's going to hand over the election to Donald Trump. He was on some TV show trying to explain how he wanted to be the president, why, and someone called him an a-hole and said, you're going to give this to Trump. He got ratioed pretty hard in his own tweet saying why he wanted to be president. And here's our friend Larry Paul Krugman saying Howard Schultz may go away once he realizes nobody wants him. I mean, Schultz is a liberal. I mean, Schultz is a social liberal, generally quite well received with Democrats and liberals. But here it looks like he's not wanted unless he's going to run as a Democrat. He's firmly committed to not running as a Democrat. He's kind of trashed the Democrats. He's trashed the Elizabeth Warren's wealth tax. I guess that would impact him because he's got more than $50 million, I'm sure. And so Paul Krugman here says, with great wealth comes great ego, plus people will feed it. But let's treat this as... I love that Paul Krugman is now an activist. He's not an economist anymore. Let's treat this as a teachable moment about what centrism means in America today. I didn't bother to read the rest of the drivel that he wrote after that. But even more so, the concern over this guy is great. I mean, he picks up 5-10%. It's going to be very hard for a Democrat to win because that'll all be from Democrat voters. He's a bigger deal than Jill Stein ever will be. And he's got the money, so he could easily pick up a few percentage points in swing states. And Dems threatened Starbucks boycott. Now, that's pretty stupid because he doesn't work. He's not the CEO there. He may not even have shares there anymore, or if he does, I doubt they are the majority of his wealth. So boycotting Starbucks wouldn't make a stitch of sense. But there you go. And that would almost appear to be this.
Uh-oh. We got a moron here.
Presenting the distinguished international news commentator and foreign correspondent,
Smaulgld. This has been an extraordinary week in world affairs.
No, I told Hillary Clinton that that's moronic.
All right, let's get into the topic of the evening, which is Bitcoin a store of value? Now, if you guys want to contribute and you want me to read your comment, call out your comment, we decided last night the best thing to do is to put I'll leave you what it should look like. You can go like this. You put the 3 asterisks, and then you write Smaulgld. That should do it. Then I'll know to see it, because a lot of times you guys are having very interesting conversations, but I can't read them all, and I lose the train of thought, and then people listening or don't have the benefit of looking at the chat box, they lose the thread, literally. Okay, so we're now going to look at whether Bitcoin is a store of value. A lot of stories on this about being a store of value, whether it's digital gold, whether it's a safe haven. Now, I'm not going to give you can probably already guess what my view on this is. But first, let's take a look at where the poll is. If you haven't voted in the poll yet, if you go over to the Smaulgld YouTube channel and go to community, you can vote. Maybe I can even give you the link and you can vote directly there so you don't have to go over there. Now, let me do that. Let me give you the... I don't think many people are voting that it is a store of value, but there are people that are Bitcoin maximalists. They think not only is it a store of value, it's going to change your life, it's going to change the world. Now, here's the community link here, and there's a question. I got 28 votes so far, so let me give you the link, and then we'll post the results here. So here's the link. Go over there now and vote whether you think Bitcoin is a store of value or not. All right. So these articles, we're going to give the point of view from the World Gold Council and from Bloomberg. And they're essentially focusing on price. That's their main argument. They'll make arguments for gold being a store of value, but no one's arguing that gold isn't a store of value. Now, some people might say it's not. I don't see how you can argue that gold is not a store of value. I think you could argue based on price that silver is a much weaker store of value. And that the reason I say that is if you just look at the price and the value of the two, especially given the gold-silver ratio going up and up and up, that means that on a relative basis that gold is holding its value better than silver. But silver still, if you had put it in a draw in 1964, $100 worth of silver coins versus a $100 bill, you'd be far better off with the silver coins today. All right. So it's interesting, Bloomberg came out with this. Bitcoin's not a great hedge against U.S. stock losses either. And one of the issues here is you're looking at, and Pablo Pino noted this in the commentary under the poll, you don't really have a sample size. You got 10 years. So it cuts both ways. When Bitcoin is up 3 years in a row versus the stock market, then you get all the Bitcoiners saying it's a store of value. It's a store of value because it did better. And then like last year, because it went down, you get all the no-coiners saying it's not a store of value because it went down. I don't even think that's the way to look at it. It highlights that it has no track record. So that's important. But I don't think if it goes up or down, it's not like if it goes up next year, oh, well, now it's a store of value again. No. If it goes down and continues to go down, it should have no impact on whether it's a store of value. So that is what Bloomberg was touting today. But for the last few days, the World Gold Council, and of course they've got I got a horse in this race. They've been pushing the fact that it's not a substitute for gold, that it's not a substitute for gold was the first article they put out on the 25th. And then today they said it's not a safe haven. So let's take the first one. No substitute for gold is basically the same thing as saying Bitcoin is not digital gold. Not quite the same thing, but similar. And I'm going to give you my reasons why Bitcoin is not digital gold. But their arguments are that cryptocurrencies are no substitute for gold, and they mention the volatile nature of Bitcoin. Okay, makes sense. The lower liquidity, which I don't agree with. Liquidity is not an issue. You can get rid of Bitcoin if you have it. I don't think it's in an illiquid market. It's not like you're buying fast coin tokens or something like that. Bitcoin is just, it may not be as liquid, but there comes a point where being 10 times more liquid doesn't necessarily mean anything. So gold isn't as liquid as U.S. Treasuries. You'll have no trouble getting rid of your gold, no trouble getting rid of your Bitcoin. So that was their second one. And the other one was that it was regulated. The gold market is regulated. And I'm not sure how that adds to your store of value. It might even detract from your store of value. So I don't like their arguments that cryptocurrencies are not a store of value, not a safe haven. I agree with them, but I don't agree with them. They're looking at it. You see, what they're doing is they're looking at what cryptocurrencies, at what gold is, and then saying, and cryptocurrencies are not, and therefore gold is the antithesis of cryptos. When I view them as two totally separate things, I view gold and silver as one-off elements that we know are limited in supply, not artificially limited in supply, but actually limited by nature. And we know that once you have molded your gold or silver into a certain size, shape, purity, there's really not much else that needs to be done to give it value. You cannot improve on the gold. You can polish it or the silver, but nothing else is required. Once the gold or silver is mined, crafted into a coin, a piece of jewelry, it's done. Doesn't matter the size of the network. Nothing matters. You have it, and that's it. Now that makes gold and silver a store of value. Assuming that people view it as valuable, well, then it is valuable because nothing else can happen. The lights can go out. Nothing is going to change the fact that you have an ounce of gold or an ounce of silver. The only thing that would make gold or silver not a store of value would be is if people just decided collectively, 4 billion people, there's no use for it. We just got past it. Now, they might do that for monetary purposes. They may even do that for beauty uses. They may say, oh, you know what, that gold stuff is funny looking. We don't like it. It doesn't look nice. That's pretty hard to imagine, too, that people won't like gold jewelry anymore. I can see people saying it's not money, meaning it doesn't serve a monetary function. That's possible. But the properties that are in the gold and silver are still there, whether people want to give them monetary value or beauty value or artistic value or jewelry value or silver value. There's still a value in them in that they are used for things that people rely on. And again, the only way it can go out is you'd have to out and not be a store of value is people just totally give up on the monetary value, totally give up on the beauty value, and somehow our society can run, the modern society or the caveman society, whatever it is, without using precious metal minerals. That's the only thing that can make those, I believe, not a store of value, or some way of synthetically increasing the supply by 1,000-fold or 100-fold or something like that. Bitcoin, okay, so the first one, they say cryptocurrency is no substitute for gold, and they're basically saying it's because gold is less volatile. That doesn't make cryptocurrency not a substitute. It just means that gold is less volatile. That means that gold is a store of value. And the market being more liquid, that doesn't mean anything. That's just a plus for gold. It trades in an established regulatory framework. So what? That doesn't mean anything. That's not even, to me, an advantage of gold. Has a well-understood role in the investment portfolio. Okay. And has little overlap with cryptocurrencies on many sources of demand and supply. I don't think that's a very good effort that the World Gold Council came up with. They're almost acting as if they have to show why gold is good, and I don't think they needed to do that. And I don't think those are the most positive attributes of gold. Now, then they came out, that was on the 25th today, and they're saying that because of the price movement, because of the way the prices have moved recently, well, hey, guess what? Back to what Bloomberg said. It's not a safe haven. Look at the prices the last 4 or 5 months. Gold has gone up 10, 12, 13%, and cryptocurrencies have all gone down. Well, I don't think cryptocurrencies are a safe haven for the same reason I don't think that they are a store of value. And it's not because of their price. The price is only reflective of the properties that they have. So, they're saying they're not a substitute for gold. It's less volatile. Gold is less volatile, has the more liquid and established market, and so on. I don't think that that's very important. And now they're saying, look, there hasn't been we haven't seen the hedge. When the stock market fell in December, gold rallied, but cryptocurrencies didn't. Okay. But we know that gold is a store of value and a safe haven. That doesn't mean that cryptocurrencies aren't. But they aren't. And here's why. This is my view, and I'm going to get your views. Cryptocurrencies are not a store of value and are not a safe haven. And the people who love Bitcoin, they don't want to hear that. They'll tell you they're anti-fragile and all this other stuff. That doesn't mean that Bitcoin and Litecoin aren't superior methods of payment. And again, I think that's very clear. That is an attribute of Bitcoin and Litecoin, and it does blow gold and silver as a medium of exchange out of the water. But that in and of itself does not give them store of value status. The dollar is a superior means of transacting. The digital dollar is a superior means of transacting. That doesn't mean that the dollar is a superior store of value to gold or silver either. It just means it's more suited in today's world to be traded. And then a lot of people always, oh, what if the lights go? Yeah, what if the lights go? What if there's an EMP? Well, that's a totally different circumstance. We're talking about the way the world is now. Transacting digitally is by far better with digital dollars, digital rubles, digital anything than carting around gold and silver. However, the fact that you have to cart around gold and silver actually means there's value to cart around. Now, the problem with trying to say Bitcoin, Litecoin, whatever, are stores of value is they are reliant on too many things. We mentioned you mine gold, you mine silver, it's out of the ground, it's crafted, forged into a piece, you're done, you have it. That value will hold as long as the element doesn't degrade. There's very few ways to destroy gold. It's pretty much immutable. Same with silver. There are some chemicals you can put on it, will dissolve it. But putting that aside, they're not common. Not like if you put it in your drawer or you leave it outside that anything's going to happen to it, other than someone would steal it. The problem with Bitcoin and any cryptocurrency is being viewed as a store of value is it has too many inputs. You cannot put your Bitcoin in a drawer. Sure I can. I can take my treasure and put it in there and memorize the thing, the keys or the password, and now I can store it. No, you can't. Because first of all, you don't store anything. You don't own Bitcoin. You don't hold Bitcoin. You hold the ability to pull that Bitcoin off the blockchain. You don't have the blockchain in your nano or treasure, whatever you have. It's not in there. You have keys to be able to go get it. And the problem is, that would be okay. That would be, say, well, it's the same thing as if you had the key to a vault in a Zurich airport. No, it's not. Because the Zurich airport, when you go there, you can actually pull the gold out, and now you have it, and you don't have to do anything else. Bitcoin only exists if there is electricity, a blockchain, an internet connection, a device to access the Bitcoin with your private keys. Oh, but what about satellites? Well, same thing. Okay, so the internet doesn't work. Now you're relying on a satellite. Remember, you're not relying on a vault in an airport in Zurich to give your gold, to make your gold work. You only just put it there. Okay, so now it's out of there. Now you have it. The gold now works. But Bitcoin, you have to have the electricity. You have to have the device. You have to have a working blockchain. You have to have internet connection. You have to have miners that are actually... You have to have people actually have to be using Bitcoin for it to work. Whereas no one has to be using gold at any particular time. If the blockchain could actually just die, it could. People say, oh no, why would it die? Well, of course it could. Gets corrupted. It could be subject to bugs. You can have the miners just shut down. And now, how can that possibly be a store of value if the system collapses? I don't just mean the electric system or the grid. The Bitcoin system itself could go down. Not because the government shuts it down, just because it gets overwhelmed and people don't want to use it anymore. And doesn't work anymore. So now it's not a store of value. So the big difference between gold and Bitcoin is there's no inputs. Once the gold has been pulled out of the ground, it's done. And Bitcoin, Litecoin, they are organic. Now, what that does make Bitcoin and Litecoin, besides being superior payment systems, it makes them far better as speculative assets. Why? Well, because that network could grow. The network in which your, quote, store of value, not Bitcoin or Litecoin is on, could get better, could get bigger, could get faster, could have more uses. And then it is limited in issuance. But having something limited in issuance in and of itself does not give it value. It's the same stupid argument here all the time about silver is only 9 times as rare as gold and therefore it should be 9-to-1 the ratio. Nonsense. And the example I give are platinum is 10 times rarer than gold and it's not worth 10 times the price. Same with my artwork. I've made 2 paintings. Picasso made thousands. His is worth more. The fact that Bitcoin and Litecoin are limited in issuance in and of itself means jack. Because if any of those things happen, lights go down, your device doesn't work, the internet doesn't work, the blockchain doesn't work, the miners stop mining, the satellite falls out of the sky, you got nothing. You may have a bit of something that there's very limited of, but it's not of any value. Whereas gold, even though it may not be, you can't put a number on how limited it is, once it's gold, it's gold. Nothing is going to change the fact that it's gold. Whereas cryptocurrencies, they are reliant on too many inputs to be considered a store of value. And again, that's not a cut on Bitcoin. That is a fact. Bitcoin is a superior payment system to gold and silver, but it is not a store of value. It's a speculative asset, whereas gold and silver, I would say, were more store of value assets. All right, let's see what you guys are saying. And I'm going to put back up the pitch. By the way, I haven't pitched the mugs tonight, so I'm not going to do that. You know what to do. You get your Smaulgld mugs, and they're game changers. All right, here we go. We'll just leave that up there. All right, let's see what the questions are, who we got watching. Now, when we started off, Jeffrey Gotts said yes. We're going to address Jeffrey's points here. He says most people don't believe it, yet because it's volatile since it's new and people are uncertain about its future. You're kind of arguing against why it's not a store of value. You're using what the World Gold Council was saying, was that gold is less volatile and therefore a store of value. Gold's intrinsic value is subjective since it's not important to life like food and shelter, says Jeffrey Gotts. No, that's true. Now remember, we listed 3 uses for gold. We said there's a monetary use that people may just abandon, in which case that subjective value is gone. There's a beauty use, which is your jewelry, your silverware. People just want it because it looks nice. That's subjective. That could change. The vagaries of taste, it's gone. But gold still has intrinsic value for properties which are useful in ways that we're aware of and ways that we may not yet be aware of, because those are unique metallic properties. And that's why I think it's still a store of value, even if the first 2 go away, which they haven't. I mean, there's still some monetary value attached to gold and silver. I think far less today because they can't be used as a medium of exchange as easily as the digital assets. But there's still an investment demand for gold and to a lesser extent silver. And there's really been no degradation in humans' interest in having beautiful objects made out of gold and silver. And even if they did, they're still useful as commodities. All right, we got Ann here. We got De La Ville. Keisha Rhinestone. That is a new one. Hello, Keisha. Says, the answer is a short, unequivocal no. Bitcoin is the exact opposite of store of value. I kind of agree with that. I don't know if it's the exact opposite. I would say it's not a store of value, but I have to think about whether it's an exact opposite. Digital illusion of wealth. Well, that I disagree with, because something can be valuable, but not a store of wealth. Let's think that through. If I were to ask you, and I'm going to answer for you, but I think I know what you would say, and most people would say, is the dollar a store of value? Most people would say no. Is the dollar valuable? Now, if you're a real diehard, you say no. Dollar is toilet paper. There is nothing to and to those people I say, you look at your screen, send me the dollars, Smaulgld LLC, P.O. Box 714, Dover, New Hampshire 0382. It's actually 821, but that'll get there if you do 820. Okay. There is value today, right now, right here, right now, at this moment. The dollar has value. Period. It does. You may call it toilet paper. You may call it worthless. Right here, right now, Bitcoin has a value. It does. It is not a digital illusion. That is just something that Chris Drain likes to keep saying. It is not a digital illusion. It is factual that right now you can get for a Bitcoin. There's no denying it. The illusion is believing what he says. Right now you can get $3,379 for that Bitcoin. Now, will it be worth $3,379 today, tomorrow, the next day? Who knows? But in a sense, who cares? Once, if you think the way I do, if you follow my logic, yes, Bitcoin, dollar, not a store of value, not a good store of value. But is it wealth? Temporarily, for sure. Right now it is. So if you were to send me Bitcoin and you thought it was worthless, I can easily convert that into something like a store of value. Like maybe I could buy gold with it. Yeah, I don't like these sophomoric just chanting something people do it all the time, and it's probably stuff I say like game over and game changer that people repeat. But the idea that because something isn't a store of value means it's not worth anything is rubbish. There are many things that are not stores of value that are valuable. Beer is not a good store of value, but many of you would pay valuable money for beer because at the time it's valuable. Lots of things are valuable that are not stores of value. I think once you decide nothing is valuable unless it is a store of value, and therefore the only thing worth owning is silver. That's nonsense. If you can't spend silver immediately, there's a value there that it doesn't have. You cannot use silver to buy stuff very easily. Does that mean that silver doesn't have a value because you can't use it as a medium of exchange? No. It just means you can't use it as a medium of exchange, but it still has value. Just because Bitcoin or a dollar may not be a good store of value doesn't mean it's a digital illusion of wealth. That's not what it means. It means it's suitable to be used to spend with real value in real time. De La Ville, it was a good interview. SD, good people to buy and sell. Yes, if you're interested in buying or selling. And again, I don't do paid advertisements from. I don't have paid guests. I like talking to James. He is not a pumper. He's got a good head on his shoulders. He's got some good insights about precious metals. However, I do have to disclose that I have for years had SD Bullion as an affiliate link, and people have bought precious metals through SD Bullion through the Smaulgld site, and Smaulgld gets a small commission, so it's nice to do. Here's the link. I'll give it to you. Yeah, I have no trouble promoting their services. They have never had an issue with any orders there from people. So, okay. Pablo says a mug has more store of value than Bitcoin. That is true. You can I can tell you that this mug, unless I break it, hear it? My Smaulgld mug has a value. Put aside the licensing value of the Smaulgld and the beauty of a Smaulgld mug. There's probably $6, $7, $8 worth of intrinsic value in that mug that is there today and will be there tomorrow. Will probably be there for a long time. And I've had my Smaulgld mug for 6 months, and it's the same. It's worth about the same. Whereas, you're right, Bitcoin could go down. Gold could go down, too. Remember, a store of value. Actually, the point Pablo is making is mugs are actually better stores of value than gold or silver. The value of a mug, of a Smaulgld mug, and I'm not kidding, is much more stable than the value of gold and silver. There's not an active trading market. There's a cost of production. And there may even be a collectible value on these Smaulgld mugs. Gus the Broken. Good to see you, Gus. All right. TRP Bitcoin is pump and dump. Well, that's an intelligent statement. Ann says, why are they pumping metals? Well, I'll give you another one, Ann, which is interesting. The guy from Van Eck went on the other day, and he said something that, to me, was incoherent. He said Bitcoin investors are more interested in gold now in 2019. It's their favorite asset. What appeared he was saying was that when you ask Bitcoin investors what other asset they'd be interested this year, 41% said gold. But it seems like if they don't have their Bitcoin ETF, they've got to get people interested in gold. So it could be that there's an effort now to push and promote gold this year and silver this year. Maybe they're not going to promote Bitcoin because of all the regulatory issues. Who knows? Promote one or the other. Maybe they promote both. Ann says $2. Give me a break. I don't know what that is. $2 for what? All right. Let's see. Remember, I'm only going to look at comments if I see that they're addressed to me. Otherwise, it's going to take me all day. Yeah. De La Ville, there's no sheeple in this audience. You know, I do want to comment on that. And this may offend some people, but not the Smaulgld mug stackers or game changers, but people may be new to this for the first time. One thing I noticed that is factual to me is that a lot of people like to call other people sheeple, and they think because they listen to certain YouTube channels that they got the inside scoop and they know, and they're not like the sheep who listen to mainstream media and believe all the nonsense that's peddled there. They listen to the truth on these other channels, when in many instances they don't realize the truth that they're listening to isn't any more thought out than the mainstream media, and in many instances is just promoting a narrative to either promote a product that they're selling or to promote a newsletter or some type of narrative. And a lot of people who call other people sheeple, they lap this stuff up. They go to 16 to 20 other channels that say exactly the same thing, and they never once do any independent research other than finding confirmation on 10 other channels that talk to each other all the time, have each other on the same shows. So the idea that, you know, you're special and you're not a sheeple is generally a sign that you might be. All right. Pablo said bat too. Alrighty, what else do we got here? De La Ville, there's no sheeple in this audience. Yeah, all the Zionist stuff. I don't get into that stuff. Rothschilds and Zionists and yeah, everything you got to blame on the Rothschilds and the Zionists and yeah. Let's see, what else do we got here? I don't want to just look for comments that have the stars in my name, but I'm gonna have to do that. Okay, Keisha says, I was replying to the comment Smaulgld made about the mainstream media normally bad-mouthing metals and doing something unusual. Yes, indeed. That is strange, isn't it, Keisha? It's very strange. The intent of my comment, she says, I hope that's it, I don't want to misgender, was to say that it's not unusual. They're planning a pumping scheme. It's repeated something they've done many times before. Yes, and that is a theme of this show, that obviously the valuations that we have are not like the stock market. They're not reflective of earnings. They're not, I mean, Tesla has no earnings, so how could it be worth billions of dollars? Only in a manipulated market is something like Tesla have a valuation in the billions. Yes, probably. I can't remember the last pump for PMs. It's true. Tossing Molotov says, Bitcoin acting more like silver. Just look at the price spikes of both charts. Yes, De La Ville says Flake is a fake Republican. Fake Republican. Well, that's true. Keisha, that's because it's not the same kind of pumping. It's a lot more subtle. Get some good comments out of Keisha here. First time commenter. And a lot more organized and pernicious. Nice word. It's not in your face the way it is a pumper Smaulgld talks about. Well, that is definitely true. All right. Shark Air, I'll vote for him and boycott Starbucks. Well, that's a very good, if everyone did that, not if everyone did, if enough people did that, you'd kill two birds with one stone. You'd ensure he wouldn't get elected, the Democrats wouldn't get elected, and Starbucks would go out of business. All right, let's see. Rad Vladdy. Okay. Specifically calling out for his comment or her comment, or their comment, or your comment, says, Bitcoin is a collectible currently. Okay. I like the idea of Bitcoin as a collectible. It sounds stupid, but it's not. It's just like art is a collectible. But art is not fungible. Bitcoin is. So it's a little different there. The reason I like the collectible thing is not because the analogy works across the board, but because collectibles only require a certain number of people to see their value. They don't have to be universally valued. A lot of people think that, oh, Bitcoin will never be accepted as a global currency. Okay. But if 25 million people in the world accept it, then in a sense it's its own ecosystem and it's collectible, and that'll give it value. It doesn't have to be everyone uses it. Then he says it's speculative as a store of value. I agree with that too. Far ahead of any crypto for this function. I agree with that too. Bitcoin is far ahead of any of the others on that. Free market selected money historically goes through this process. That is true. Although up until Bitcoin, free market money was usually selected not because it was easier to use as a medium of exchange, because otherwise you just rip up pieces of paper and use those, but because it had So the regression theory that it had value to begin with. See, Bitcoin has no value to begin with, but it's valued from the get-go for being a superior medium of exchange, which is strange because I never understood. Yeah, okay, so you can transmit what you call value, but what value you're transmitting? You're just transmitting numbers. You have to do a mental gymnastic to say you're actually transmitting value because there's nothing valuable about a Bitcoin. And then you say, well, it's valuable because you can transmit value. What value? Anyway, you can say you can go around in circles with that one. And then he says collectible store of value, medium exchange unit of account. That's true. It is by design, SOV, MOE, AUA, but is not yet realized. Okay, but that means anything that Bitcoin can become means it is not a store of value. It means it is a speculative asset, and that's why it actually can go higher than gold, because it can become better, but it also can become worse and go obsolete. How can ones and zeros on a screen be a collectible item? Take your Godfather DVD out. There you go, right there. It's a collectible item. Pablo Pina says, if I receive, say, 100,000 in Bitcoin value and decide not to convert it into fiat, okay? Bitcoin is volatile. That is correct. I could gain or lose 10% in one day or more. That's right. And it's possible more a risk or a speculation. Correct. Nothing different, nothing incorrect there. Red. Let's see. Nick Saban, most likely candidate for... you left a link there. I'll show that link. All right. Let's see. This chart is helpful regard. Okay, I'll show that link too. I'll look at it later. Gold is no substitute for digital transfers. That's K7 Gixxer 1000. Gold is no substitute for digital transfers. I'm not quite sure I understand that. Gold cannot be transferred digitally the way Bitcoin can. You can have a representation of gold transferred now by like gold money or something, but I'm not sure. Maybe you elaborate further on what you mean by that. Rad Vadley says, Pablo, gold was collectible for 100 years before it became a store of value. Well, that's true. Origins of money for definitions. Keisha, Rhinestone. I went to a museum and took a photograph of the Mona Lisa on my phone. I'll sell you that photograph for $1 million. Why would someone pay $1 million for that? And that's a rhetorical question that you think answers the rhetorical question that digital can't be worth something. Now, go through it. That picture can be replicated countless times. Almost an infinite number of times. The photo that you took can be replicated. Now, someone who's a no-coiner would say, well, that's the same thing with cryptocurrencies. You can make as many of them as you wish, and therefore they have no value, and they are digital illusions of wealth. Buy my silver. The difference is, once people, and again, you don't have to think this way, because I don't think this way either, but enough people do, that there is value in a Bitcoin. And there's value in the fact that they cannot be counterfeited and that there is a limited supply and they can be used to transmit value. Once you get to that point, then you see the difference between your photograph of the Mona Lisa, which can be double spent. That's the idea that Bitcoin solved that problem. I don't think it solved it. I think it solved it within its own digital realm, but it doesn't solve the issue that the no-coiners are saying that it doesn't have value. But then it throws on layers onto that it has value because you can transfer it and it can't be double spent. Whereas in your example, Keisha, the Mona Lisa can be spent zillion times over, and therefore it doesn't have the value of a collectible or a value of being unique. And Andrew Del Quadro thought that was a LOL. Now, Rad says all value is subjective. It's good comments coming from Vlad and Keisha today. Newbies, I imagine. Have you guys been here before, or are you just showing up for the first time? Gold having SOV monetary valuable is because of network effect and shared belief in value. That is the point. You see, that's a very, 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 very good point. The idea of shared belief in value is something that no-coiners have a problem with, because they say gold is money, period. And they actually think beyond that. I mean, Ron Paul actually thinks that. When he asked Bernanke, why do you have gold? And he says, tradition. And then if you're a real gold bug, you laugh and you say, ha, ha, ha. We all know gold is money, period. And it's not. It's because collectively humans have valued gold. But it isn't a thing unto itself. Just because J.P. Morgan, people make up this quote, gold is money and everything else is just credit. That's only because people collectively valued gold as a form of money and having value. The problem with taking that point of view is not everyone shares it. And there isn't a lot, to go back to Bernanke and Rand Paul, he finishes with, yeah, so I guess someone just got rid of that economic law. That is not an economic law that gold is money. That is not an economic law. That was a collectively held belief that gold had value as a monetary asset. It is not a law that gold is money, period. I would love to have seen, because a lot of people like to cite Rothbard and Mises as being gold proponents and only seeing value in gold, when actually Mises is a human action person. If people want to assign value to digital illusions of wealth to somebody, then I'm sure he'd be fine with it. And Rothbard, the reason he liked gold wasn't because he liked gold, is because he saw that others collectively assigned value to gold for the properties that it had, that appear to be self-evident. Very interesting. If you think Bitcoin is a collectible, says Keisha Rhinestone, that's what you're doing. You're buying a digital photograph of a rare painting for more than the original painting. Now, that's a very interesting way of looking at it. You actually might have hit on something here. It is quite possible in the future that someone could create a digital art form and make copies of it, but in limited amounts, and they would have value. Simply because people like that particular digital arrangement, they'd have to find a way where that digital arrangement could not be copied, and they can issue it in limited form. You really have to, the reason, it took me a while, it took me actually years. You actually have to get past the idea that something is something, period. And that is all I need to know. Once you think like that, once you keep saying digital illusions of wealth, you're on a treadmill. Your brain will never operate. You'll never be able to think the way someone else or the rest of the world or other parts of the world might think. Once you start saying something is this and that is all I need to know, it took me a long time, because if you resist, and two things that made me realize that there is value to Bitcoin is the fact that it's self-evident that if you sent it to me, I could spend it on stuff. Well, there's value there. It's not a digital illusion of wealth. Send me all the digital illusions you want all day, every day to me. Send me all the worthless fiat currency you want all day, every day. But what made me realize is that cryptocurrencies can have value is, why do fiat currencies have value? Just because they say it. No one's even saying, no one's forcing anyone to say that Bitcoin has value. That's all voluntary. People have decided, or certain people have decided, that it's worth something, the people that trade it. Now, you may say it's worthless, but you don't matter. I don't mean that personally. I mean you as a person who are not engaged in buying and selling of Bitcoin don't matter. And I use the Jackson Pollock example all the time. I don't like Jackson Pollock paintings. I think they're worthless. I'm not in that art market. So my opinion, my market doesn't matter. So all the people that are out trashing Bitcoin, they have their opinion. They're against it. It could be shared by 90% of the people in the world. But if 10% of the people of the world value Bitcoin, think it's a medium of exchange, they're going to value it at $3,000, $5,000, $200, whatever they're going to value it. And whatever you say is irrelevant. You can go around saying, it is a digital illusion of wealth. That is all I need to know. I am buying silver. Okay. Buy silver. Silver is the only real money. Okay. You and however many other people believe that. That's why the price of silver is where it is. No, it is not. It is because of manipulation. And once they stop manipulation, all that silver that J.P. Morgan has bought, it'll drive the silver price higher. Okay. You can believe what you want. Let's see what else we got here. We got to get going here. You guys have still got comments? All right. Yeah, what else do we got here? think I might have to cut it down here. Rad's got a lot of good points. So does Keisha. I have to get them back here. All right, Scott says, lack of scarcity in my view. Love the blockchain tech and product spawn, but there's a better mousetrap every day. That's right. There's not a better gold every day, and there's not a better silver every day. There's the difference. Very good point, Scott. That gold and silver you can't improve on. They can clearly improve on Bitcoin. Either make the whole Bitcoin added layers, lightning networks, whatever, bigger blocks, whatever they think, privacy coins. You can make Bitcoin better, or you can come up with something better. You're not going to come up with something better than gold. Tossing Molotovs. Without power over a long period of time, gold would be nearly worthless because lead would be more important. That's right. It's all situational. There's no law that gold is money, period. Or that Bitcoin is a digital illusion of wealth. That is all I need to know. Everything is fluid. There is no one universally held view on anything. That's where value comes from. Collective. It isn't like gold is money, period. You can say that all you want. If there's not enough buyers for it, then they don't think it's money, then it's going to have a lower value. It's going to have a jewelry value. In fact, that is what the Americans thought when they went off the gold standard. They thought, well, now the gold price is going to fall through the floor because it has no monetary value. It's only going to be good for trinkets. Wrong they were. Ha charade they were. Because the Europeans and the Americans thought, no. We want the gold backing. But today, almost 50 years later, most people don't think of gold in the monetary sense. The way they did in 1971 when Nixon pulled the U.S. off the gold standard. Keisha writes, my autograph is limited in issuance. There ain't nobody paying $1 billion for my autograph. Yes, that is my point. The amount of limited issuance doesn't mean anything. Johnny Litecoin is here. Quick demo on how good Litecoin is for payments. I just opened up my phone and sent 0.20 Litecoin to Litecoin QR on the screen. And let's see if Johnny Litecoin is bluffing, because it's nice. I think that's going to be worth like $6. All right, I'm going to open up my Coinbase account and see if Johnny is actually walking the walk or just talking the talk, if he's actually sent Litecoin to my account. I'm going to have to see what he sent here. All right, I'm going to sign in here. And if he did, I don't know when he sent it, but the point being that I'm going to have to send him another mug. Yes, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to send Johnny, I'm going to send you, I think you got the, did you get the classic or super classic? Whichever one you got, I'm going to send you the other one. And it looks like, let's see what he sent here. I'm going to look in the Litecoin account on Coinbase. Uh-oh, looks like there's something there. And there it is. It is a pending transaction for 0.20. Johnny, let me know which mug you have, and I will send you the other mug, because you've been demoing this for quite some time now. The sending Litecoin. I do appreciate it. Okay, so this is the Litecoin payment. Yeah, he's due for another mug with all this demo he's sending me. Okay, so here is what he sent. Didn't cost him anything. Didn't cost me anything. No one stopped him from doing it. No one can stop him from doing it. And here is the confirmation that I now have that Litecoin in my wallet, which I can. It's not a digital illusion. I can spend it right now, but I have it transferred into dollars. And actually, it's not transferred into dollars. It can be transferred into dollars. It's just 0.20 of a Litecoin. And there she blows. It's the equivalent of $6 there. And it happened while we were talking, while he was probably eating dinner, doing something else. You can't do gold and silver that way. You can send it to the address. You can send a check. It's not going to happen. You could have sent me PayPal. If you sent me $6, I would have gotten $5.38 or something. Much better to do it this way. Now, does that mean it's a store of value? No. It just means that it's a superior payment mechanism. Does that give it value? I think it does. Does it make it a store of value? Not necessarily. See, I don't have a problem trashing or saying that gold or silver or Bitcoin are lacking in certain attributes. It's okay. But if once you become enamored with Bitcoin or Litecoin or gold or silver, you have it in your head that the others just absolutely suck in all capacities, and then you don't see the values that they have. Well, thank you, John. There it is. You just demoed that. And anyone else wants to demo Bitcoin or Litecoin, please feel free. All right. Voltero. Yeah, okay, we can talk about that at some point. I'm going to have to apologize because I might not be able to get to everything. We're running up on an hour and a half. But you know, we do this each and every night. And actually, I don't feel I'm missing anybody because you're not calling out the comments. I'm calling out your comments. So since I don't have any more, okay. Well, Keisha, thanks for joining tonight, Keisha, and for your comments. Joanne, yeah, if I don't have any specific comments, I'm gonna call it a night. But really good discussion tonight. Appreciate all the input from all, and I'll have to go back and read the comments. I didn't see them all, but I try to catch the ones that you had flagged for commentary. So thank you very much for joining me tonight. We will be back again tomorrow night. We do this each and every night around 7, 7:30, maybe 8 o'clock. 7 days a week, 365 days a year, assuming that there's, well, no, I would say Christmas and other holidays, probably not. But please check out Smaulgld.com. Make sure you subscribe, like, and all that kind of stuff to this, and we'll see you tomorrow. Thank you.